All right. Welcome to the Revolution Franchise Review. And today we're going to be talking about the lauded and a really highly sought after the UPS Store franchise. And we're going to talk about some of the ins and outs of it, give you some backstory, give you some history, costs, potential revenues, and our thoughts as well, right? This is a review. So we're going to share with you what our thoughts are on this particular franchise. And one of the reasons I was really excited to discuss this particular brand today, the UPS Store, is that not a week goes by without somebody asking me about the UPS Store and saying, "Hey, this is what I really want to own. Tell me about it. Let's get rocking and rolling with the UPS Store." And once we begin to start digging a little bit deeper into it, sometimes I'm not going to give you any spoiler alerts, or I'm not going to give you any spoilers. So although this will be a spoiler alert, I suppose, but sometimes it is just for the best that they go a different direction. We're going to talk about why that is and what that's going to look like for you. And let me do something real quick here. I'm going to share my screen so we can all take a look at the UPS store. All righty. So you should be able to see my screen here. This is their website. Absolutely killer website. One of the main reasons to get involved with a franchise is they've done the homework. They've done their due diligence on building out a really robust website, right? They've put together the tech stack, as it were, and they've done a really excellent job. Here you can see the UPS store. This is actually for my local location, which it geo locates and knows exactly where I'm located here. But you got a million different services you could do here. It's a really customer friendly environment. There's not a lot of thought process has to go on whether or not you want to do business with them. And so a lot of really good things to like here with the franchise itself from what the franchisor is providing. Obviously, the UPS brand name is enormous, and so you're never going to have anybody saying, "Well, tell me exactly what it is that you do." That they're going to know the UPS store, right? Everybody knows about it. What can Brown do for you? And everybody's gonna know exactly what you do. So, but let's get a little backstory here before we go into looking at the numbers. So the UPS store was actually founded in the early '80s. It was originally called Mailboxes, Etc. Who here remembers that? I do. So mailboxes, etc. That was big when the '90s, '80s, and '90s. You'd see them popping up all over the place, and they were really onto something. They gave small businesses the ability to have a mailing address out of the UPS store. The mailbox says, and then the etc. part is going to be the mailing and all the other ancillary things that they do. And so it's a really needed service. They did a great job branding it and grew it really rapidly. Well, obviously they were acquired, and they transitioned the branding over to the UPS brand early 2000s, give or take 2001, 2002, somewhere in that neighborhood, and maybe '03 even. Uh, and really began to grow and grow and grow. And as of today, at last count, which is actually we're probably about a year in arrears on this because the new FDD has not yet come out. But at the end of the last cycle in April or so of last year, they had 5,234 locations. That's a ton of locations. And, you see them everywhere. They're on every street corner. Hell, they're even going into rural areas now to provide some of those mailing services for, the rural communities out there, and they are just, I mean, they're everywhere. It's about as ubiquitous of a brand as you can get. But enough about all of that stuff. Let's get into the numbers. Who's excited? Who's with me? Let's check it out. All right. So, what does it take to get one of these things open? Well, you're going to have anywhere from 212,000 to 496,000, so right around $500,000 to get the doors open for this business. They want you to account for an additional 3 months of working capital, which they say is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $40,000 to $70,000 that you're going to need additionally to keep the business moving forward and also to avoid going insolvent. Now, I'm going to stop it there. Yes, you need to have at least 3 months of working capital. Every FDD on earth says you need 3 months of additional working capital. Not every business is going to become cash flow positive in that 3 months. So it's always best to err on the side of caution. They do account for a lot here in this one. Some of them you see like $5,000 to $12,000 for additional working capital. Like that's enough to get like maybe a sandwich a day if you enjoy eating. And so the this one counts for 70,000. That might be enough, but it also might not be. And so if you're looking at, especially if you're looking at getting funding for this, you'll work with your funding advisor and really get a lot of additional working capital because these businesses are fairly high overhead. They do take a little bit of time to get running. And while that's happening, you don't want to have to be worried about the working capital situation for your business. It's always best to start with more than you need than to need more than you have. So make sure that you're taking into consideration all those things when you're putting together your business plan. You might want to even account for 12 months of working capital. Talk to a lot of these franchise owners that are operating this business. These are things that we coach our clients on here. Talk to them. Find out what does it take. What's your monthly overhead like? Multiply that number once you get a good average. Multiply that number by 12, and that's the number that you want to get for working capital. You're definitely not going to, hopefully at least, be using it all, but it's always best to have more. Okay, enough about that. We're going to skip ahead here a little bit. And so what does it get you? $496,000. We've all seen a UPS store. We've all walked inside of one. You know what they do, right? They're going to ship things out for your Amazon, your Amazon returns. They're going to you're going to bring back if you need to send something that maybe your employer sent you something and you need to give it back because you lost your job, whatever it looks like. And that's one of the things that they do. They also have some other really cool services like shredding for the businesses or personal use. So if you have sensitive documents you want to get rid of, you can take them there. They shred them there on site. You get a mailbox, as I mentioned before. If you're just a home-based business like I am, you can get a mailing address there, and that is really necessary things for these days. Not only from the SEO perspective, but also from just keeping the riffraff out from finding your house. Right, you want to make sure that you've got an incorporation, that you've got a business address, not just a personal address. But again, other services as well. Direct mail, right? They provide direct mail services. So if you're one of these types of owners that want to get out of the community and really become a salesperson for what you can do, that's one of the things you can do to bolster that revenue. And we're going to look at revenue here in a minute for these franchise locations. You're going to see some, there's definitely some variance between the high producers and the middling producers. And so those are a couple of those things that you can do to influence that. But I digress. Let's get back to the FDD here, and we're going to take a look at their item 19, which is where you're going to see their financial performance representation. I believe it's on page 80 of their FDD, and I am correct. Here we go. Okay, so we're going to zoom in a little bit here. You can see here average adjusted gross sales, which all that means is how much revenue is coming in. That does not mean profit. That does not mean what the owner is making. It just means how much revenue on average is coming in to one of these stores you see next to your grocery store every day. On average in 2023, it looked like $721,274 on average were going in on an annualized basis into the average location of the UPS store. You got a median though, which statistically is a better representation here because it's going to take out some of those outlier stuff that we see there. So for a better representation, just under 700,000. There's really not a ton of variance there, which is nice. All right, so 700,000 median top line revenue. What does that mean for bottom line? They do not let us know what they don't show us a P&L. They don't show us what their net profitability is like. So we're going to have to make some assumptions. Where they are. They're usually in fairly not high rent, but not the cheapest rent out there. They're sandwiched in between maybe a grocery store and an accountant, or they're in a it's in kind of class A real estate. It's not going to be the cheapest, not going to be the most expensive, kind of somewhere in the middle. But they got some overhead, right? You've been inside of one. You got equipment, you got people, so you got lights, you got HVAC stuff that you got to pay for, all the cooling, heating, etc. Um, and then all of just your cost of goods sold, right? The postage. Postage is not free if you're a UPS store, so you're not making all of that money that you get from that. You're making commissions off of things when you're doing returns or deliveries, etc. And so all of that taken into consideration, if you Google it, if you look it up online, it says your average owner is making about 100, 110 grand a year. Okay, that's if they're an owner operator. They're working in the business every single day. Okay, if you want to become a more semi-passive owner and hire a manager to oversee the day-to-day, they're going to be getting a chunk of those net profits. And so one of the ways that a lot of franchise owners use this as a wealth creation and an income creation vehicle for them is they buy multiple locations, but that can get very expensive, as we saw in the original item 7 there, which detailed the initial investment. You're talking another 400 grand or so just to get one of these open, to maybe make another 100 grand additional, and actually less than that, because there's no way you're operating 2 of these as an owner operator. You would have to have a manager in place, and likely in both of those locations. And so you've got yourself a lot of overhead, a lot of initial investment to recoup that initial investment. But all of these things you need to take into consideration. And I'm not saying it's bad. There's nothing bad. There's nothing wrong with doing these things, but you just have to be educated on what it is going to look like for you. But let's say you're a top producer. Let's say you're unbelievable. You're amazing. You're the greatest in the entire world. Highest of these locations out of the top 10% of centers did $2.6 million in 2023. That's likely, again, somebody that's a real go-getter, somebody's out in the community selling those ancillary services that are not the needs that just everybody needs on a daily basis. These are things that you can influence with your ability to sell in the network, getting those direct mailers, getting more shredding stuff going on, right? There's a lot of really cool stuff you can do to build this business up that isn't necessarily part of what the franchisor is providing for you as kind of a baseline offering. Okay. Anyway, long story, I guess not short, long story even longer. We're going to look at these are some of their numbers here, just done in graph form, which it's actually kind of the dorkiest graph that I've ever seen in an FDD. For a franchise the size of UPS Store to just have this simple line graph is hilarious and unnecessary. I don't know why the heck that's in there. In case we were too dumb to read these numbers here, we're going to put them into these lines. All right, good for you guys. Thanks a lot. All right, so that is a quick review of the kind of factual information of what the franchise, the UPS Store, is going to entail for you. So if you are interested in it, here's a few things. If number one, if that didn't scare you away, those numbers based upon the initial investment to what the potential revenue numbers look like, if it is still something that is really attractive to you, again, we're more than happy to help you and provide any more data and resources you want. Hit us up, revfran.com, like the page, do all the nonsense stuff that you got to do here with the YouTube channel. But for those of you who are still on the fence, here's a few things I want you to consider when thinking about this particular franchise. So I want you to really dig deep and think about this. Why do you want a UPS store? Why do you think it's a good idea? Very first question I ask people when they ask me that, again, at least once to twice a week, if not once to twice a day, do I hear about this franchise? Again, makes sense. They're everywhere. So I ask them, why? Why do you want it? And if the answer is because I see it all the time, and I go there every day, and it looks like there's a lot of customers going in, okay, let's dig deeper. But if it's just because, listen, I've identified this, I've done my research, I love UPS, I love the culture, I want to do this, I've worked in one before, I have a great skill set to do this, then perfect. Then we'll help you make contact with them which is not easy to do these days because, again, they got a million locations going. But if your answer is not a resounding like this is, I know this is what I want to do, my guess is it's because of it's what's called familiarity bias, right? You see them everywhere. It's the same reason I get people asking me about Chick-fil-A or McDonald's or Subway. Any of these other franchises you see everywhere. It's called familiarity bias. You just think that they're good because you see them everywhere. But is it? Is it good just because there's a whole bunch of them? No, no. I don't. I told you I wasn't going to put too much of my 2 cents in here, but I'm going to. No, and in fact, hell no. It doesn't. It has nothing to do with anything. It just means that the franchisor is successful. Okay, that's all that means, and it means they've been around long enough to have this amount of brand awareness and brand presence. So that familiarity bias is likely the reason that you want to do this. There are other options out there. They're actually substantially less of an investment. They cater to the same community that has some of the same things that you would really love about the UPS brand that you can get into for a fraction of the investment and actually make a substantial amount more money and work with the same people, same people in your community, either B2B or B2C, whichever one's your bag. Lots of really great options out there that I think are better personally, and that my job as a franchise consultant is to convince you that they're better, or at least help you to convince yourself that they're better. Okay, so, and I want you to do this the next time you go in. If you're just dead set, this is the franchise for me. I love it, love it, love it. Even after hearing all this, I love it, love it. Next time you go in, I want you to look around, and I don't want you to look at the customer. I don't want you to look at all the money that's being traded hands there. Either, most of it's digital, just because you just walk in with a little sticker and they do it and somehow they get their money. That's how it works. But don't look at the customers. We're all going to be pretty happy because it's a pretty great experience. You walk in, it's super simple, it's great. You walk out, you get everything was taken care of. Don't look at the customers. Look at the people behind the counter. Those are what you are going to be. You will no longer. You are going to step past that counter and leave being that happy customer and then turn into the potentially super unhappy, overworked owner of that business. And so take a look at that. Look around. Actually ask, hey, one of you the owner? Yes? Are you happy? Do you love what you're doing? As they're, lifting a box and bagging stuff up and putting tape and stuff for, about 30 bucks an hour, great. If it is, perfect. And if that's what you want to do, and by the way, my guess is he'd sell it to you or she'd sell it to you right away. So jump on it if that is what it is. But yeah, look around. Just look at the people. Look at the people behind the counter. Are they happy? Do they love it? All right. And last thing here. I want us to think about this. Sometimes our greatest strength can lead to our greatest weakness. Okay. And in this case here, our greatest strength as the UPS store's greatest strength is the fact that it is a necessary service. It is so needed. It is so ubiquitous. It is so easy to transact. They've got deals with Amazon, and it's just they're everywhere. It's absolutely needed, and so it's their greatest strength, right? People as soon as you open up one of these things, people are going to be walking in, doing business with you. You don't have to think about it. You know what's going to happen. But I said it can be your greatest weakness as well. So our greatest strength is it's a no-brainer. Everyone's going to come in and do business with me. That leads to complacency sometimes, and that's why our greatest weakness, in this case, our greatest strength, is turning into our greatest weakness. Is now we're so overworked, we're so overwhelmed with the demand for our services because we open up our doors and everybody's coming in, that a lot of these owners do not focus on the things that could really grow and scale up that business, like our $2.6 million friend did when we were looking at the item 19 of the FDD. They're probably out in the community selling those services. but like I said, it's our greatest weakness. Oh no, we're overworked, and our greatest strength has made us to where we just think that this is what our business is, that it's just there to help people mail their garbage back to Amazon, their misorders back to Amazon, when in fact our business should exist to generate revenue for our business and to help business owners solve the problems that they have. You could do that. You also, it's very easy to do that. It's also very easy not to do that because our greatest strength becomes our greatest weakness. Hopefully that made sense for you. Kind of rambled a little bit there towards the end. Anyway, that is our review of the UPS store. All right. Woo, yeah. Yeah, we love it, right? Okay. So, and stay tuned for a bunch more of these. We're going to be doing these on a regular basis. I enjoy doing them. I read into these things constantly. So, we love doing these here. Drop a note in the comments here if you want me to break down any other type of franchise that you want to look at. If you're looking at a McDonald's or if you're looking at a home service franchise, whatever it looks like, put a note in the comments. I'll make sure to include that on our list here. This has been a lot of fun. Hit up our website, revfran.com, revfran.com, if you'd like a little bit more details on what we provide for our clients, and all the services and coaching and all the other stuff that we do to help people get into business and leave the shackles of their jobs. And I think that's about it. Oh yeah, like, comment, subscribe, do all the stuff you want to do on this channel here. We appreciate y'all taking the time to watch this video here today. Be excellent, and we'll catch you on the next Revolution franchise review.